First of all, congratulations to both of you. This is the third time I've seen the film in 7 days. And at 132 minutes, it's, trust me, it's a compliment. I don't think that most movies should be over 90. And it really is something, and I reckon that most of you agree it's really a beautiful movie. And I don't know about you as well, but I've been waiting to see it since Sundance, and very few films can sustain the momentum and the buzz that they have since January, and this movie does indeed live up to all of the buzz and the hype and everything that we've heard, and it's just quite an achievement, and I want to say congratulations yet again. We will chat very briefly because I know that the audience certainly has a lot of questions, and you're going to be talking to too many reporters for the next 3 months anyway, so we'll keep this part of it mercifully short. But Luca, talk to us about your initial attraction to the novel, and what made you and James decide to take it on, James Ivory, the screenwriter, because for those who've read it, there really are a lot of differences between the novel and this film. There's a lot of internal dialogue in Elio's head that we don't see, that doesn't get in the screenplay. There were quite a few changes, and I'm curious what the basic heart of it was, what made you say, okay, I'm going to invest X amount of years of my life in this story.
Well, it's a curious path that led me to make the movie, because I agree with you that the normal way would have been to read the book, love the book, and then understand how to adapt it and make it. But in truth, I decided to direct this movie fairly lately in the process of making this movie happen. The movie starts with Peter Spears and Howard Roseman, two producers who optioned the book from Andrea Siman 10 years ago, and they had a script and a different director. Ivory and I were asked to join the project as producers in order to help facilitate, give any kind of advice and to help. In particular, I was asked to help because the book is set in Italy, and I could have given insightfulness on how to produce a movie in Italy. And it took 10 years, and I would say at least 10 directors that passed on the project, or that we couldn't make the movie happen, including Ivory, till the version that you saw this morning is the one that got made. Regarding the script, again, we had another draft, which was using the first-person account of Elio, the device of the narrator being him. Then, a few years ago, with James, we had this almost infantile idea of, because we are two directors and two writers, to play with our toolbox and to start imagining what we would have done with the book. And we worked on my kitchen table in my house in Crema, and that's the outcome. The idea of not getting the first-person account was immediate, at least for me, because I think the experience of reading a book and being in the identity of the narrator is something great for a literary experience. But for movies, I'm not very attracted by that.
I agree.
There was a moment in which I thought maybe a narrator you want it, and I was thinking about an omniscient third-person narrator like in The Magnificent Ambersons or in Barry Lyndon. But also that I discarded until the movie was just here and there.
it rarely works, and it's certainly not necessary here. I think it's cinematic when you read it, actually, and it's certainly extraordinarily cinematic here. Under normal circumstances, if we had the whole cast here, we would talk about your two leads, but I want to talk about Michael.
Of course.
Because I must admit, as a gay man, that for me, I thought the money moment would be when Army took his shirt off. I usually...
But you got plenty of it, sorry.
We got plenty of it. Anyway, it was fine. But for me, as somebody who also has a head, the money moment of this movie is after Army's character has left the scene, and Elia goes home and he is sitting on the couch with Dad. And Michael, as you may know, there have been love letters that high-profile media outlets have written about that scene in particular that have been eloquent and beautiful and have made sure to remind people in certain voting groups that it is an extraordinary scene, and you know the scene I'm talking about, the monologue. I would like to see if I can take you back to when you first got the script. You're flipping through, it is what it is, the parents are awesome, and then you hit the monologue, and I'm really curious what your initial reaction was.
I had been warned about it. My agent passed the script on with the message that Luca was interested in possibly seeing what my interest would be in working on it. And when I read it, I was immediately moved by the story. And yes, that the things that Professor Perlman gets to say are very moving and something wonderful to be reminded of in this day and age. So I was delighted by it and moved by it, and my affection for my fellow castmates grew during the course of the entire piece of working on it. We shot somewhat in chronological order, so that was pretty much the last thing I shot. So after living with it for a number of weeks, I was ready. And we all just loved each other. I mean, honestly, it doesn't happen that often, but we all got on, and it was a privilege, not just to watch Luca orchestrate all of us, but to watch my fellow actors grow and bloom and blossom and make bold choices and surprise each other. It was a delight.
It's absolutely beautiful, and it really is an incredible wrap to the film, and if you had faded to black after that moment, it would have been fine. Yet I love the way you end the movie, and also there's so many other wonderful elements. I am curious about the dedication to Bill Paxton.
Oh, yeah. Bill Paxton came to visit us on set because he was a friend of a few of us, and it was a delightful 2 days. I've been very, very heartfelt admirer of his art as an actor and as a director as well. I love his films, his directorial films. I had a big crush on him when I saw The Abyss and The Aliens. He's a wonderful actor, and it was quite difficult to bear with his loss. So the least was to dedicate this movie, because we all remembered his visit on the set as something beautiful, and we were fond of it.
And if I may be so bold, and I know that the development of the movie, I reckon, came before the release of your movie, but it really, the movie is love, perhaps even more than the novel. I wish I had that father. I wish I was grown up as Elio. It's really quite simple.
I think my point about this is that I grew up watching and understanding cinema through the lens of the specificity of what is called the New Wave, the Nouvelle Vague, the New Hollywood, the Junge Deutsche Cinema, the Cine Novo, this great generation of filmmakers between the late 50s and the 70s who made cinema making two different things. One, trying to make objects of spectacle, and on the other hand also to create a reflection on the meaning, and to moving forward a sense of cinema that was always very strongly political, and political in a sense in which they were delivering a sense of utopia. So I think that I hope with good results. I like to think that that's what I try to do, and in particular I believe this movie it's very dear to me because we all joined forces to try to in a utopic way, which is the practice of the possible, not of the impossible. We try to pull it and to say there is such a thing as a family in which there is this kind of transmission of knowledge, and in which mutually people makes other people better.
And one thing that strikes me, and my gay friends and family are going to flock to this film, is that I think you made a movie for all audiences. I think this is a general audience film. This is about love, period. This is not gender specific, even though these two characters happen to be. And I'm just curious how you respond to that.
Yeah, sure.
Well, the box office will tell. Anyway, I think you've had enough of me. They're going to have more than enough of me, and you'll have much more interesting questions for sure. So I'm not sure how this works.
Just ask for questions and they'll raise their hand. We have mics roving.
Great. So let's open this up to questions from you, from these two awesome filmmakers, and let's get going.
You have a question? You just raise your hand so we get a mic to you. Can you take it down there, please? Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Now
Just
you
giving
can
them a
ask a
signal.
question, Michael, or Jack. There
Thank you. And I'm not sure who this is for, but that last scene that you were talking about and asking about with a beautiful monologue, I was surprised with so much truth going on in that scene that that when the character was asked, does mom know, that the dad said, no, I don't think so. And my impression in watching the movie was that she absolutely did. And I'm wondering if the book is different, or if that was a choice, a directorial choice, or if
I
there's any
think the
comment
book
on
is
that.
the same, but Asiman's mother is less present and full-bodied and caring than our Annella. I think it's a little bit a moment of, it's a moment of coquettishness from the end of Mr. Perlman. Of course the mother knows. I mean, that's what I give myself as an answer. And in fact, it's interesting because usually when I sit through the movie, people laugh there. It's true. It's a white lie.
I have a question over here.
And then one.
Just a quick question. Can you talk about the sequel that's planned?
What I can tell you about that is that when we presented the movie for the first time in a festival, was Sundance this year. My God, it seems last year. We didn't expect. I never give anything for granted. So the way the movie got received there was very intoxicating, and I realized that I really love these characters. Of course, I love my collaborators and my partner in this project. And so the idea of wanting to be more with them, both the characters and the people, led me to to the idea that maybe there are more things that these characters will do in their life, and it could be quite extraordinary to follow them through the way the performers grow up in their lives, in the way, like, without any personal comparison, Truffaut did with Jean-Pierre Léaud and the characters that opened the 400 hits and that followed another 3 movies and 1 short. So it's a cycle. It's a chronicle. It's like, would be great to make the chronicles of these people. And by the way, the novel by Asimov jumps 20 years in time. The last 50 pages tells you what happens to these characters. So it's in the DNA of this that you go in the future.
Thank you so much for you being here and joining us at the festival. I think it's great to hear your guys' perspective on things. And your monologue, wow, just so impressive. Oscar just for that scene, please. Please for that. Fantastic stuff. My question is regarding the cinematography, and I noticed that you seem to have a strategy behind your use of focus, and some of those, especially scenes where you might have a 2-shot, but you had one character out of focus who is, like, there's one in particular where I think our lead is in the foreground and I think Army's in the background. He's in focus, but so I was just curious if you could talk about your thinking around the use of focus in the film, because that was really unique.
I don't know if there are filmmakers in the room, but any filmmaker know that you can choose to go by the textbook of the rules and basically do the master and then cover with the close-ups, and you'll get a good scene because you have great actors. Or you find a point of view that not only is illustrating the scene, but it's also giving you a meaningful position in the space in order to convey much more deepness of what you want to convey. And that's what I strive for. Soderbergh decided to quit cinema because he felt he had covered all the angles possible with his camera. That's what he said. I agree with him. I should quit. But we used one camera, we used one lens. We never changed the lens during the entire production, including the titles, the main titles. That's a 35mm lens and a 35mm camera. We shot in film, and so we've been very patient with our limited means. So we had to find always the right spot.
This will be our last question, unfortunately, due to time.
It was a lovely movie, and I have a question about the casting. When you were casting it, did you have Armie Hammer in mind, or how did he? And if not, how did he come to the project? And also, how did you discover Timothy Chalamet? Is that how you say his name?
Chalamet.
Chalamet. He was absolutely wonderful in the film. How did you find him?
Timothy has been introduced to me by his agent when I was a producer of the project, and so I inherited the star from the producer, but I was in agreement with the producer. It's fantastic. He's a wonderful person. His ambition is so strong, but also his talent is so deep, and he's very disciplined. So I was very happy to continue the conversation with him as Elio. Armie, I've been attracted by him fiercely since I saw him in The Social Network. I followed his career. I found him striking in J. Edgar. I found him wonderful in the beautiful Lone Ranger. That it was an unlucky movie. So once in the book, he's described like movie star, a golden boy, and I think Armie is perfect for that. But beneath the surface, there is a wonderful turmoil in Armie. So it was interesting to investigate that. Michael, I've been a big fan since a long time, and so it was perfection when he said, yes, I'm coming. And then the story in the book, it's Italian-American, but Timothy is also half French. And it's not a mystery that I'm not the greatest fan of the current generation of Italian actors. So I hooked on the French and I cast French actors to play the mother, the girls, and Esther Garel is the daughter of one of my favorite directors, Philippe Garel, and luckily she got the talents from the father. She and Namira Kazar, I knew her since a long time, and she's a great icon for some sort of art cinema. Catherine Breillat, among others, and I like to put together a group of people that are not all made from the same cloth, from the same piece of fabric. You have different identities, and that makes more alive the proceeding.
And the result is awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.